Hey guys, Jackie M here. Hope you're well today. Just give me 2 seconds. Again, I just need to share this out to my other social media platforms. And thank you for joining me. My name is Jackie M, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm a former Malaysian restaurateur based in Sydney, Australia. And nowadays, I gave up my restaurant to look after my Down syndrome child, Noah, who's at childcare today. And you know what, I always have to do this over here. Just give me a second. Run these live daily broadcasts is one of the things I do. Just give me 2 seconds if you just bear with me. And I'm doing today's session in large part because I get a lot of people ask me about my, one of my previous videos I did was live now. One of the previous videos I did as an edited video on YouTube was called How to Make Your Own Fried Shallots and Fried Onions, and it's gotten a little bit of traction, both good and bad. But of the good traction, I've had a lot of people ask me questions about, you know, what type of, you know, what to use, how long to cook it for, why isn't there fried onion or fried shallots turning out the way mine does, and all that sort of stuff. So I thought I might just run a live broadcast, because you know what edited videos are like. They have to be like 3 minutes or shorter, otherwise people are not interested in watching them. But the downside is you don't get to see basically how long it takes from start to finish and what to watch out for. So it's all completely abbreviated. So hopefully this session will show you, give you a little bit more of an in-depth overview on how to make your own fried shallots, okay, or fried onion, which is what I'm using. Just give me a second, I'll just grab my onion over here. So I've got about, I've got 5 onions here, right? And just give me a second again, I'm just gonna quickly make sure that everything's running okay. Okay. So I've got about 5 onions here, and I've got some oil over here. I'm just going to turn this on, start heating it up. In terms of what you need, I use onions because they're cheaper, certainly here in Australia anyway. These large onions will do the job. But more traditionally, back in Malaysia, growing up, we use shallots, which are these small red onions, basically. They're just harder to peel, and over here in Australia, the shallots usually cost easily upwards of $12 a kilo. Onions, you can get them as cheap as 99 cents a kilo, okay? So that's one thing. One thing that you will need would be a vegetable slicer over here. And sorry about my nose. And this vegetable slicer I picked up from Asian grocery stores, usually out Cabramatta way, which over here in Sydney is where there's a big community of Southeast Asian migrants, okay? And before I go on any further, again, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Lenovo over here, Australia, for providing me with all the laptops that I use for my live and to manage, not just run my live broadcast. I use a Lenovo IdeaPad Y700, which is a gaming laptop, and I also sometimes use my Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Yoga as well, but I also use there's a desktop actually that I use to manage my broadcast, and up the back here there's a Yoga 900. Okay, and also a quick shout out to Rode microphones, and Rode has supported me for a few years now, for providing me with all the microphones I need for all my videos and broadcasts, right? So what you need, got the onions, these are just regular brown onions. Mandolin, right? And this is on a pretty like thin setting, okay? The fact of the matter is this particular mandolin that I buy, like I said, over in Cabramatta, really only comes with one setting. But you know, you can buy ones with you know, wider settings, but this one I like to have it quite thin, right? And the reason why you need a mandolin, I'll explain as I go along, is because basically just make sure that your onions cook evenly, right? I've got some oil in here. Unfortunately, I've got more oil down in my garage, but I live on the top floor of a of an apartment building that doesn't have elevators, and it's a really, really hot day here in Sydney today, okay? So I've got probably about just under an inch of oil. Like I said, ideally you want a little bit more, but not too much, okay? I do all my deep frying in woks, okay? This is a heavy base wok, and the reason it's useful is that because it's got a thick base, whatever it is you're cooking, especially if you're deep frying, when they sink to the bottom, won't end up getting scorched, okay? Which oftentimes happens. And if that happens, if you've only got a thin wok, that's fine as well. If you've got a saucepan, that's fine. Wok just gives you like a big enough surface area so you can cook more onion at the one time. And I'm just heating this up. If you know anything about my cooking, I always go, everything is agar-agar, which is guesstimate. I know a lot of Australians get a little bit hung up about deep frying because they think you need a deep fryer to be able to do your deep frying. Deep fryer is nice to have, but I don't have a deep fryer, and so I do all my frying in woks like this, okay? And basically, a deep fryer will help you regulate the temperature a little bit better. But the fact of the matter is, with making fried onions, even with a deep fryer, even when I did have a deep fryer when I had my restaurant, the deep fryer to me was good for frying things like fried chicken pieces and that sort of stuff, but not for frying crispy onions, okay? Because the baskets that come with the deep fryer usually are not, like the mesh isn't fine enough for the onions, and half the onions will end up at the bottom of the deep fryer, okay? But of course, like I said, the upside with deep fryer is that you can regulate the temperature. So if I were deep frying this, I would want this about 200 degrees Celsius, which works out to be, I guess, about 350 plus Fahrenheit. And if you've got any questions, by the way, guys, just hit me up online, comment here, and I will respond to them. If not now, because I'm a little bit busy cooking, so I probably won't be checking across my social media profiles, but I will try and answer them. If I don't see them now, I will try and answer them after the broadcast. Just leave a comment, or I will respond to them in my next broadcast or one of my future broadcasts, okay? Speaking of my broadcast, like I said, I mentioned in yesterday's broadcast, this is so hard to peel. It's usually a lot easier than this. In yesterday's broadcast, I mentioned that I was a little bit behind with my corresponding recipes that I ultimately posted at my website, which is jackiem.com.au. But I've caught up now. Well, certainly I've created the drafts, so they just need to be published on my website, and that should happen in the next 48 hours. So go and visit jackiem.com.au for the recipes for some of the live broadcasts I've done in the last half a week. Okay, so I've got the onions here. I'm going to start shredding them now, right? And I probably should have a separate bowl for this. So I've got this here and an onion, and you just want to gently, don't put too much pressure on it because your eyes are going to start stinging, right? And you want to start heating the oil up as you're peeling the onions, because the oil will take a few minutes to heat up, depending on how much you're using. So I'm shredding it here now. So one of the questions I got asked was someone who wanted to know why their onion didn't turn out crispy, right? It just turned into a big, gluggy, wet, soggy mess, right? So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just gently shredding them and just moving them around. Just watch your fingers towards the end. Usually I don't try and cut it too fine. I've got a little bit left here. I'm going to stick it aside. I'm going to box it up and use it for other recipes later on. And I'm just going to come around and show you how the onion should look. Okay, so you can see this here. These are all evenly, finely cut. Now, if you're Australian and you're used to weekend barbecues, you can actually sometimes buy pre-cut onion. Those are cut too widely for this purpose, okay? So they're not going to be suitable. Don't use them. When they're too wide, they're not gonna crisp up because there's too much moisture still trapped in those slices. Now just let me grab a wooden spoon, give me a second. Okay, so this is just bubbling away. Now, it's important for you not to have too much oil because you can see how it's kind of like frothing up a little bit. And just adjust the temperature, right? I'll put it in at about the right temperature because it's sizzling and it's bubbling, and that's what you want. If you throw in the onions and they sink to the bottom, you know the oil is not hot enough, okay? For this particular recipe, it's fine. You can just let it heat up some more, and eventually they will start frothing up and floating up like they're supposed to do now, okay? I'll just turn this back up a little bit. Hopefully I don't run out of gas. And what you want to do, right, this is going to take a few minutes. While this is cooking, you want to go on to the next onion and the next onion and just kind of shred them. If I had more oil in here, I could actually get away with putting double or triple the amount of onion, right? But remember, because of the moisture in the onion, the oil is going to froth up. So if you have a lot of oil in here, it might actually overflow and then burn your house down. So you just got to be a little bit careful with that. So again, I'm just going to do the next onion. Like I said, you have to have the onion fairly thinly sliced, right? And they have to be evenly sliced, because what's going to happen is if they're not even, you're going to get some start to brown and burn before others are even cooked through, right? So it's very, very important that you have that you use a mandolin, you know, or you know, unless you've got really, really strong knife skills. Okay, so I've sliced it halfway, and I'm just going to move it around. The different surface areas of it. So see, this is just falling apart a little bit, which is fine, and I'm just going to slice this through as well. But again, just watch your fingers, because these are very, very sharp. And right down to here, I'm just going to put it aside, save it for a different recipe later on, okay? So you want to just kind of like gently shred this, like this. And the onion in there are just starting to show a little bit of color now, okay? And what you want to do when you're cooking this in a wok, right? Especially if you're using a thin wok, right? You're going to find that it burns quite quickly around the sides. And what you want to do is just gently stir this around so that you get it, so that you make sure everything is evenly browning, okay? And not, otherwise you'll end up with all the burnt bits around the corners, around the sides of the wok. So I'm just going to do the next one. Now, this is a good exercise to do like on the weekend, perhaps, you know, depending on your schedule. Obviously, it is a good exercise to do on a weekend every 6 weeks, 8 weeks. They will keep, right, very well in your kitchen, and they don't need to be refrigerated. Once they crisp up, I usually just keep them in a clay pot that I'll show you in a little bit. And again, if you follow me long enough, you know that a lot of these recipes I'm doing are actually for my own personal consumption, me and Noah's personal consumption, right? So this is what I do every 6 or 8 weeks. I fry up some crispy onions, store them, and then every time I eat noodles or something that goes well, something that crispy onions go well with, I just grab them and stick some sprinkle some over my dish, okay? So you can just see it browning around the sides, hopefully. And again, I'm just gonna mix this around gently, just to make sure that they're evenly cut. And if you're having trouble peeling like I am, it's easier sometimes than others. Brown onions do keep quite a while in your pantry, right? So you can buy them. Next time you go shopping, Asian grocery shopping, always make sure that you have some brown onions and some garlic on hand, right? And those really, just these two things are enough for you to do a lot of things in terms of Asian recipes, Asian curry paste and all that. Some of the other things are nice to have, but not necessary. But onion and garlic, yeah, always try and make sure you've got some on there. So this is browning up very, very quickly. I'm gonna quickly just mix this up one last time and let it cook just a touch more. You can see it doesn't actually look quite brown yet, well, not entirely anyway. But I'm going to take it out in seconds. Just let me grab another bowl for this. Okay, so the idea with this is that you want to take this out before it turns completely brown. Okay, if you can visualize how it should look, the end result should look, you need to take it out several shades before it looks like how your crispy onions should look. Because what's going to happen, the onions, after you take them out of the oil, will continue to cook. Okay. In fact, I could probably have taken this out several seconds earlier. It's really quite brown. And I've got it here, and you want to just lightly make sure you spread it out on paper towels, or you can stick a colander. If you've got like a big colander, you can stick it in a colander as well. I'm going to toss the next batch in. Now, if you were frying a lot of onion and you were taking out a lot of onion, right, you're going to find that the temperature drops in the oil, and you want to wait a few minutes, a few seconds, like half a minute or whatever, for the oil to come back up to temperature. Otherwise, the next batch you put in, the onions are just going to sink to the bottom, and nothing much will be happening. Okay, so what you want to do with these ones that you fried up, like I said, you want to spread them out, all right? Don't throw them into one big mountainous pile, because what's going to happen, the heat from the onions are going to create steam, and they'll make your onions soggy. So I'll just show you quickly what this looks like, if you can see it. Okay. I'll take a picture later on so you get a better idea. Okay, so they're all evenly, thinly sliced. And you want thin onions, you don't want thick cut onions, okay? So again, just mix it around a little bit. And, you know, like I said, I usually do this every 6 or 8 weeks or so, depending on how much onion I go through. And it doesn't take that long, you know, like, you know, while you're waiting for that one batch to cook, you're peeling and slicing the next onion or two. And just make sure, like I said, just move the onion around so that, you know, you get a good grip of it when you're slicing, okay? So again, last bit, throw it out. And just let me do the last 2 onions. And I'm going to mention that large onions, big onions, have more moisture in them than shallots, right? So if you ever buy commercial fried onion, which is available, by the way, at a lot of Asian grocery stores, if you check the ingredients list, if they're fried onions, usually the ingredients will indicate that the package contains onions, oil, and also cornstarch, right, or tapioca starch. And the reason for that is that because of the amount of moisture in the onion, cornstarch or tapioca starch acts as an absorber, you know, basically acts as a absorbing agent to take out a lot of the liquid, because when they're producing them in the factory, obviously they're not going to be doing it in little batches like these. They need the onion to be quite dry when they fry up. Now, the problem with that is that if you follow me long enough, you know that one of my curry cheats is to use, because a lot of curry paste contain like onion as a base ingredient, and sometimes I cheat by using commercial products, right? So I use commercial fried shallots. So if you use commercial fried onion, you can't actually replace them, because commercial fried shallots, in the ingredients list, it doesn't say that it contains any cornstarch, because shallots traditionally are drier in nature, right? They may have a little bit, but it doesn't say so on the ingredients list. And I know for a fact, having used them as substitutes for fresh onion and fresh shallots, that the dried shallots or fried shallots are a better match for for the fresh variety than fried onion versus fresh onion. Okay, because of the starch content in it. If you use it in your curry to replace fresh onion with, you're going to find that it ends up creating a starchy texture in your curry, okay, which you don't want, right? You want your curry to be a little bit thick, but you don't want it to be artificially thickened with starch, okay? But again, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, so you can live with that, then go for your buy. But yeah, go and visit, if you're not watching this on YouTube, go and visit youtube.com/JackieM. I've got, at last count, 230 something videos there. And if you want to see how I do a curry quickly in the space of 15 or 30 minutes, it will tell you how to use all these substitutionary ingredients, including replacing fresh onion with fried onion or fried shallots and all that sort of stuff, okay? So, got this. And again, this is just starting to crisp up a little bit, and you want to just move them around away from the sides to the middle. And I have one last onion to cut up and crisp up, okay? If you want, you can just halve the onions and then slice them with the mandolin that way, but it's easier for you, okay? I'm just quite annoyed with this batch of onion that the skin is so thin that it's making it really hard to peel. Usually they're easier to handle than this, okay? But yeah, these onions I would have bought before I went on my 10-day vacay. So they keep very well, unrefrigerated, okay? So no harm having a bag of onions in your pantry, right? For the incidental Asian cooking experiment. But yeah, remember, the onions need to be thinly cut. You don't want to put too much in at once, especially if you don't have a lot of oil, like what I'm doing now, right? You don't want to have the oil too full. You would ideally want a wok because it gives you a wider, bigger surface area to be able to cook this. If you were using a saucepan, it makes it a little bit hard. And you want the oil at a temperature about 200 degrees maybe. And you want to take out the onions before they get too brown. Okay. Okay. So if you want, you could have put another layer of paper towel over this. And in between batches, remember, just let the oil come back up to heat, especially if you're, agitating it so much, it's going to release some of the heat from the oil. So you want it to come back up to heat before you put the next batch of onion in. Okay. So with this, I'm going to put this in now. And I'm going to put all of it in. You can see how the oil is really bubbling over. Like I said, don't forget, don't put too much oil in this. You don't want the oil to come up more than a third of the way or a quarter of the way up the sides of your wok, okay? And you can see, because of the amount of onion that I put in, it's brought the temperature of the oil down quite a bit, but it's not going to matter because, like I said, it will come back up to temp shortly, but it just slows down the cooking process. So I'll just show you again what this looks like. Okay, so these are, you want to let this cool down completely before you store it, because again, if you store it now, it's going to go soft, it's going to go soggy, and it'll be limp. It will still taste nice, actually. My stepmom, when she does fried onion, she actually keeps it wet in the oil that it was fried in, so that you're getting like both onion oil and shallots in it as well, right? Brown shallots. And it actually tastes quite nice, because in a lot of Asian recipes, you do drizzle some onion oil over your noodle dish or something like that. So I quite like it like that. But just because I used to have a restaurant and people think onions should be crispy, this is how I do it. But growing up, we actually have the onions sitting in oil, okay? So this is it. It's still quite warm. You want to let this cool down a little bit. And I'm just doing this next batch, and I'll show you the container I keep my onions in. Oops. Okay, so this is what I keep it in, right? Once it's cooled down, I've got it lined with a plastic bag, and that's because there's a minor crack in this pot. You don't, of course, have to keep this in here, right? You can keep it in a plastic tub or something like that, but I keep it unrefrigerated like this, and then every mealtime I bring this down and just grab a handful and sprinkle it over my food, and that's my fried onion batch. Okay, so this is going to take a few more minutes to fry up, but you get the idea. You can see it starting to come back up and start bubbling away. This is going to take a little bit longer because there's more onion in here, and also because there's not a lot of oil, so the temperature has been kind of like brought down a little bit. So let's see how we go. And I will just put some of these away. If you've got any questions, like I say, just hit me up and I'll try and answer them. If you're going to troll me, I'm going to respond with Bible verses, because I'm going through this phase. It's not a phase. I'm going through this thing of memorizing Bible verses, all right? So you're going to troll me. I'm going to respond with Bible verses. It's going to have you hopefully dashing for your Bible and turn you into Bible scholars by the end of your trolling career. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to take a photo of this and show you what this looks like at the end. But you get the idea. You've seen me do 2 batches of these fried shallots. Like I said, this will give me, this will probably be enough to keep me going for about 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, this isn't quite as large a batch as I usually would do. I just run out of onions. Those are my last 5 onions. But yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, so go and visit jackiem.com.au, JACKIEM.com.au. That's where you'll find all my recipes. If you want to read about my other writings, you can go to medium.com/@JackieM. Medium, everyone knows Medium, a blogging platform. Or you can go to a number of other websites, right, to find me. There you go. And I will see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'll try and do a quick one tomorrow, but I do have Noah has a medical consultation tomorrow about his physiology, basically. So we'll see how we go. I'll try and fit in a quick broadcast tomorrow, and I will see you next time. Thank you, guys.